did get quite a few questions, so, and I just want to say for the record, had I known you were going to be governor, we would have given you an extra minute last year. We got a bunch of great questions. I'm trying to sort through them in kind of categories, but the first one is, you've had an extremely successful first 6 months. What are your plans for continued success in the second half of 2011?
Great question. We are living life in dog years. It's 7-1. The goal in the first 182 days was to get 4 years worth of work done in 6 months. And that clock doesn't stop. So in the fall, we've already announced 3 special messages. We're going to do a special message, and all on topics of critical importance to small business. September is going to be health and wellness. October is going to be infrastructure, roads, bridges, sewer, water, but also intellectual capital items, broadband. And then November in particular is a giant one, talent. Most of us would call it workforce development, but I believe the right topic, the right name is talent. And we're going to come up with a program that is going to be leading the nation in terms of connecting supply and demand and do it the right way, which we've never done in the past. So it's exciting. We're going to keep it up. And I do have to give a shout out to the legislators because, boy, they've been great partners in doing this. And believe me, I've challenged the environment, pushed the envelope about as hard as anyone ever has. So in a practical constraint, I'll give you one quick aside. Is on the campaign trail, people always used to say, do you believe in full-time or part-time legislators? And I said, I'd give an answer back then, but what I can tell you today is we need a full-time legislature right now because they're working so hard, they're on overtime. So give them a shout out.
I agree. This was the theme of some of the questions. What are the prospects for eliminating the personal property tax this fall?
Yeah, the personal property tax is something we've already started that process of bringing people together to start a dialogue on it. In our tax system, the ordering I had of stupidity, number 1 was the Michigan business tax, and number 2 is the personal property tax. So the larger of the two, the more important was the Michigan business tax, but as a practical matter, the personal property tax does need to be addressed, but we need to do it in an especially thoughtful way because it's not just a state issue. Most of the personal property tax is a local issue, and so it's just not us acting. We need to do it in partnership by bringing in the local partners, the local jurisdictions, and have a dialogue on a better long-term solution. But it does need to be a topic.
Good. A number of people ask about the bridge. Please clarify the purpose and benefits of the new bridge.
The new international trade crossing is just a fabulous idea. There's no bones about it. I'm saying this as a business person. I had no baggage coming into office. So I had no preconceived notions. If you go back on the campaign trail, I didn't answer whether I supported the bridge or not. So when I got into office, I did the homework. And I can tell you as a business person, when you do this analysis, there is no good reason that we shouldn't pass the legislation authorizing this authority. And the reason I describe it that way is the legislation we're asking for isn't to build a bridge. It's to create an authority to let free enterprise in the private sector work the way it should. It's to create an authority that would go out and bid a bridge for a private party to do private financing, to privately run a bridge, and gee whiz, what would happen? We would have competition. What's wrong with that? Isn't that the way our system should work? And in terms of the benefits from the Canadians, it's a fabulous opportunity to say we can do this at no cost to us, our taxpayers. And at the same time, leverage those dollars to do road projects and projects all across Michigan that otherwise would be very challenging. It is a fabulous opportunity, and we shouldn't let one special interest override the best interest of 10 million people.
This is a question that was a little bit of a theme, but having spent your career in the private sector as a businessman, what has been the biggest adjustment you've had to make working in state government?
Well, I tell the story a little bit. When I first started doing meetings, and this happened even as I was governor-elect, I'd walk into a meeting, and people are always nice when you're a governor-elect or a new governor, very pleasant. The highs are always good. And the first words out of many people's mouths after hello was, "We need money," or "We want money." And my response was, so what? Because the model we have for far too long in government, in our state and many other places, it's all about the money. And the point is, it is important to have dollar resources deployed, but shouldn't you first be answering the question, how does that add value to our citizens? Real results for real people is the discussion point. And when you recognize you have real results for real people, how do you fund it? How do you resource it appropriately? So one of the key things we're trying to do, I'm working hard on, is changing that dialogue. To say the operative question is not where's the money, but where are the measurable, transparent, accountable results? How do you fund it, and how do you deliver real results, real people, value for money?
That you will hear a lot, I think, out of this government. Escalating healthcare costs are halting small business growth. Can you share some strategies your administration will employ to help contain those costs for job providers?
Sure, and that is the September message. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but we do need to do a better job. In many respects, the federal discussion was a misplaced discussion. It got way too much on insurance and really didn't talk about underlying costs. And that's the focal point of our message, is get back to what we can do to manage long-term cost structures and then have an efficient market for you to acquire insurance for your employees. So that's the focus of what we're doing. But one thing I will add that I am going to emphasize really hard is we have the world's best acute care system. But we cannot win, we cannot survive by relying on acute care as our solution. A fundamental part of the solution that we spend very little time talking about is health and wellness on the front end. That we do need to get to prevention, disease management, just better overall health and taking care of ourselves. And that's going to be a big part of the message. For us to solve this problem as a society, in particular in terms of a cost to your business, we've got to jump on that issue.
And I can say, Governor, we'll be a partner in looking at cost containment because it's certainly a big priority for us. I think this will be our last question. Michigan universities graduate motivated entrepreneurs and highly skilled workers each year. Unfortunately, a bulk of this talent decides to leave the state upon graduation. What can we do better as a state to harness and attract a more prolific workforce?
Yeah, we are losing our best and brightest at an alarming rate. It truly is a crisis, and there are 3 levels to the solution. The first level, and the reason many are leaving today and have been for the last 2 or 3 years, is simply the lack of jobs. We need more and better jobs. And we're on a path to get there, and you see that every day as you create these jobs. So more and better jobs is number 1. The second thing, we were losing these young people at an alarming rate prior to that being an issue. And it was because of a quality of life issue in many respects. That many of these young people are looking for exciting urban areas. We have some elements of that. We have Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, some Kalamazoo, some cool places, but that is one of the fundamental reasons we need Detroit on the path to being a great city again. For Michigan to be a great state, Detroit has to be on the path to being a great city. They've got a lot of positive things going on. We dwell on the negative too much. We need to make that happen. And the last thing I'll tell you is we need mentorship. And I've challenged people many times before, the best way to keep a young person in our state is if they have a mentor relationship. So when you go out and you have that action list, ask yourself, who are you mentoring as a young person? That's what kept me in Michigan back in 1982, is the people hiring me said they would help mentor my career. And it made a fundamental difference in my life. So it's a chance to give and to give back, mentoring.
Governor, thank you so much. Thank you for all you're doing for the state. We appreciate it so much.